Hello, my name's Matthew, and this is The Liberator. It's a place where we discuss history and culture, different people and animals from the past and the present day in order to feel more connected to the rest of sentient life on the planet, all 97.5% of it, which isn't human. There you go, I know my stats. Today I want to talk about Matsuo Bashō and his wonderful haikus, particularly the cuckoo in the poems of Bashō. Matsuo Bashō was a monk and a haiku master who lived in the 1600s in Japan in a period called the Tokugawa period, a golden age of art and culture and learning in Japan. A disciple of Zen Buddhism, Bashō spent much of his life rambling through the wilds of Japan and trying to connect with nature and, of course, writing beautiful poems. Born Matsuo Kensaku, he took the name Bashō as it referred to a certain kind of banana tree. The tree could not grow fruit in Japan, being too cold, but travellers could take refuge under its large fan-like leaves, and is therefore a fitting metaphor for Bashō's poetry. His poems seem deceptively simple, yet beautiful. You could probably read through a collection of his haikus in an hour, but that would be a mistake to go that quickly. His poems are best enjoyed when read and reflected on in no great hurry. The haiku captures an experience, the beauty of a single fleeting moment in time.
Rain-washed camellia. As it falls, showers. Bashō's poems embody an influential concept in Japanese aesthetics, the concept known as Wabi-Sabi. Wabi-Sabi has no exact English equivalent, but means a love of the impermanent, flawed or simple. It seems to me to be linked to a deep appreciation for life as it is, not as we want it to be. Even the mundane or vulgar can evoke wabi-sabi. Squid seller, harping cuckoo, one voice.
This introduces us to the subject of our video, the cuckoo. Now, cuckoos are very prominent in Japanese poetry and in the haiku of Bashō. Also, do please like and subscribe. If you like and subscribe, then you're a cuckoo. And if you don't, then you're a cuckoo. The lesser cuckoo is particularly the object of admiration, known in Japanese as hototogisu. You can see I'm a very talented linguist. A cunning linguist, some might say. The lesser cuckoo was greatly admired for her beautiful calls, her rhyming calls making her something of a feathery poet in her own right. The oldest haiku magazine in Japan is called Hototogisu after the lesser cuckoo and has been running ever since the year 1897, which is pretty old.
Some 600 years before Bashō lived a courtier called Sei Shonagon, who lived around the turn of the 10th century. In her classic of courtly life, The Pillow Book, she describes her excitement at leaving Kyoto, the imperial capital, which she wasn't often allowed to do, to search for cuckoos and listen to their song. Her and the other courtly ladies are challenged to write a poem about the bird and his music. Where cuckoo vanishes, an island.
There is more to cuckoo mythology too. One very strange belief is that the bird vomited blood, which goes a little of the way to explaining this poem by Bashō.
Rock azaleas, flushed red by cuckoo's cry. What did the cuckoo mean to poets, and to Bashō specifically? If we cast around for a meaning, we find many competing answers. If we go back to the poetry of Tang China, some of the most celebrated and influential works in the whole of East Asia, work which Bashō was familiar with, the cuckoo appears in many different contexts. The meaning of the bird's call is subjective, and it is the poet who interprets the bird's calls. It rains as cold food time draws near. The grass grows thick and lush, the young wheat blows, and water mirrors willows by the banks. We all of us have families, but none can go back home. Cuckoo, do stop calling go home, in our ears. For this anonymous poet and his comrades, who have perhaps left their families behind for war, the cuckoo's call taunts them. They are so engrossed in their longing for their faraway loved ones that the cuckoo's cries seem exhortations for them to turn back and find refuge in the people they've left behind. Again, whereas in Bashō the cuckoo's cry is emblematic of the tranquility of nature, in the incredible Ballad of the Lute by Juyi, the cuckoo's call is an expression of sorrow, and the poet's own depression in having been demoted and sent from the capital to administer an obscure prefecture. I am living close to Paytown, a damp and low-lying place, in a house surrounded by yellow reeds and the bitter bamboo. In that place, what is there to hear from dawn to dusk? The wrenching call of the cuckoo, the mournful cry of the apes. The cuckoo's call is again saturated with sadness. Nature mirrors the poet's state of mind, with even the birds and the monkeys sobbing as they call out. Returning to Japan, a poem of Kobayashi Issa, another Japanese poet from the later Tokugawa period, the cuckoo is an agent of non-dualism in this poem. A cuckoo sings, "To me, to the mountain. To me, to the mountain." The cuckoo's song, bouncing between poet and mountain, seems to diminish the space between the two. Consciousness becomes more impersonal, a field of experience shared by both poet and nature. The cuckoo's song binds the poet, the bird, and the mountain by an invisible thread. The Buddhist notion of the emptiness of being, sunyata, or the lack of essence in all contingent things and worldly apparitions, is highlighted here. The fact the poet is sung to by the bird implies a kind of equivalence between mountains and poet. Again, captured here is the Zen term, not to. Zen Buddhism rejects dualism, rejects the subject-object categorization that comes so naturally to human minds, suggesting that oneness is a better philosophical starting point. Zen questions this standpoint when it is used as the paradigm for daily living, including philosophical thinking, for this standpoint accepts as its foundation an individual's discrete I, with a belief that I am self-contained and self-sufficient, and therefore am distinguished and isolated from other individuals and things of nature. I am here, and things, including others, are over there, creating both a psychological and physical distance between them. That psychological distance is eliminated by Issa when he says the cuckoo sings, "To me, to the mountain." Beyond waves, reaching far, the cuckoo's song.
Where else might we look to understand the meaning of cuckoo in literature? Is there some inherent essence of cuckoo which all poets admire, which isn't culturally contingent? In England, the cuckoo was associated with spring and the coming of summer, and it's liberally referenced in one of the oldest songs in the English language. Summa is Icumen from the 13th century.
As a symbol of the coming season and the joy that golden sun and blooming flowers bring, the cuckoo is welcomed as a herald of fine weather and finer feelings. Yet it is interesting to note that a much later poem from genius wordsmith William Wordsworth has much more in common with the Buddhist poems of East Asia. His tribute to the cuckoo is flushed with themes of the impermanent and illusory nature of life. O blithe newcomer, I have heard, I hear thee and rejoice. O cuckoo, shall I call thee bird, or but a wandering voice? While I am lying on the grass, thy twofold shout I hear. From hill to hill it seems to pass, at once far off and near. Though babbling only to the vale of sunshine and of flowers, thou bringest unto me a tale of visionary hours. Thrice welcome, darling of the spring, even yet thou art to me no bird but an invisible thing, a voice, a mystery. The same whom in my schoolboy days I listened to, that cry which made me look 1,000 ways in bush and tree and sky. To seek thee did I often rove, through woods and on the green, and thou wert still a hope, a love, still longed for, never seen. And I can listen to thee yet, can lie upon the plain and listen, till I do beget that golden time again. O blessed bird, the earth we pace again appears to be an unsubstantial, fairy place, that is fit home for thee. Wordsworth's poem brings together many of the competing ideas of the cuckoo we have discussed. The bird is the marvellous herald of summer, is evocative of his nostalgia for youth, and fitting for a fairy world, at once far off and near, the kind of vivid dream the Buddhists posit we live in. So where does this leave us? Cuckoos are birds deeply associated with poetry, were mythologized for vomiting blood, are used to convey beauty, our connection with nature and non-dualism, of impermanence and other core Buddhist concepts, and the coming of the seasons. I have looked to Japan and to China, and England too, just for good measure.
However, I've come to realise that all of the imagery and the symbolism when it comes to the cuckoo from this nation or another doesn't really obtain when it comes to Bashō. All of this literary baggage is irrelevant to the kind of poetry he produces. Why is that? Because Bashō was not writing conceptually. He was not using cuckoos as a metaphor for his own emotions, for the passing of the seasons, for joy, bitterness, anguish, or desire. To him, a cuckoo is just a cuckoo. He was writing about the birds themselves. Their rhyming coos calling to him from the forest thickets. The cuckoo isn't a symbol in Bashō. She isn't a sly poetic device. She's a real bird whose call meets the poet's ears and connects him to the oneness of nature. It's a simple moment, but a profound one, a complete one, a moment which needs no further interpretation.
Zen Master Saigen expresses the process of self-cultivation, a large part of which is meditation, in this way. Before the practice, mountains are mountains. During the practice, mountains are not mountains. And after the realization, mountains are truly mountains again.
It is the experience of life, untrammeled, unmediated, unadulterated by artistic pretensions or fantasies, which Bashō truly values. The cuckoo is perfect in itself. There can be no improvement. Its toes, its beak, its plumage, its rhyming calls, all of this is perfect. The most beautiful thing about hearing a cuckoo is hearing a cuckoo. No more, no less. The cuckoo is an end in itself. Bashō himself said that every day is a journey and the journey itself is home. It is the present moment, and whatever resides within it, that is paramount. Thank you for watching.